Hi, welcome to the Libertarian Alternative. My name is Mark Selzer, and the Libertarian Alternative is an educational television show brought to your community as a service by the Libertarian Party. Today's guest is community activist and tax fighter Richard Ryder. Thanks for coming out, Richard.
My pleasure.
It's wonderful to have you on the show again. So give us a little bit of the history, your history here in California. You've saved the taxpayers of California many hundreds of thousands, many millions, many billions of dollars over the years.
Actually, it's in the B's.
Yeah?
As in Bravo, as in billions. The thing is, we file occasionally a lawsuit about this or that issue. Most of the time when you go to a judge, he's going to side with the government. Occasionally it's going to go the other way. Mm-hmm. And the one we won, actually we finished in 1992, knocked down about $14 billion worth of taxes in the state overall. In the county of San Diego, which is where I am, saved about $3.3 billion.
Wow.
So it wasn't a nickel and dime. Basically, there was an ongoing practice of passing what we call special taxes, in this case sales taxes, mm-hmm. for a special cause with a simple majority vote. And the California Constitution is pretty clear on this. It says you have to have a 2/3 vote. And nobody had ever challenged it. And so after we lost a case or an election by a very small amount, of course we were outspent 100 to 1, the usual problems you have in these things. And we realized that this should have been a 2/3 majority, and we had some attorneys who were interested in taking the case. So 3 libertarian plaintiffs, I was the lead plaintiff, came forward, and we took the case on, took it to the district court, the appeals court, and eventually to the state Supreme Court. And in a 5-2 ruling, they said, you're right. This tax, which we'd actually started collecting for in 1989, was null and void. They made it not only stop collecting the money, they made them give back $400 million that they'd already collected. We had a very interesting procedure for giving the money back. So occasionally you win one, and in this kind of operation, when you win one, it's worth the effort. Even though you know you're going to lose on several, you have to be willing to sometimes come forward and challenge.
But you have a special talent for fighting taxes. You've been successful, and you're also very experienced at this. You've been doing this a long time.
Now, I'm not an attorney, but we've been taking on ballot arguments.
You're the average citizen. You're the average Joe.
I don't know.
Fighting City Hall.
Well, I'm certainly not getting paid for it. The hours are long, but at least I don't have to report any income. But the nature of it is that we write ballot arguments against some of the tax increases on the city and the county. Recently I wrote one against one of the state propositions, Prop 58. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, particularly on the local level, people think of the Republicans as a small government party, but the truth is they're as bad or worse than the Democrats, and so they don't come forward. The Republicans and the Democrats, certainly the party leaders at least, don't come forward. And so I had the San Diego Tax Fighters, which mm-hmm. is a grassroots group, and then in addition the Libertarian Party comes forward, and oftentimes we'll co-sound ballot arguments to be the opposition, because otherwise a lot of these things would end up going on the ballot with no opposing viewpoint.
Well, why oppose them, Richard? Why not just, why be so curmudgeonly? Why not just let, don't these taxes go for good things, Richard?
All taxes go for good things. There's always people who benefit. Some people benefit more than others, and everybody pays. And our approach is that there's a very fundamental question I ask people, and the answer is pretty straightforward. Do you think your taxes are too high, too low, or about right? And there's 3 different categories. People have opinions that differ. Right. Some people think taxes are too low. And what I say is I simply represent the other 2 viewpoints. For the people who think taxes are too high and for the people who think taxes are about right, we represent the viewpoint of no, we don't need more taxes, because those 2 groups agree. The group that thinks we need more taxes, that's the other side. Fine, that's what an election's all about. But we're not representing any fringe position. Most people agree that taxes are too high, or that they're at most about right.
Also, if you want libraries or schools or help for the poor or Social Security or anything else, why would you want to send your money first all the way to Washington, D.C. or Sacramento in a leaky hose, and then all the way back to the people in need in a leaky hose, or all the way back to yourself?
Government
makes no sense.
Exactly. Government has a tendency, the further away the money goes, the less comes back, the less chance it comes back. We found that, for instance, with the gasoline sales tax, which was passed, Prop 111 many years ago, which supposedly was going to build all sorts of roads in San Diego County. Well, the money did go to Sacramento, Didn't come back. All the roads we were promised never came to pass, or at least they took years and years and years longer than was originally envisioned. So they'll say just about anything to get things on the ballot and get them passed, but delivery is something else. And more importantly, even if these are things that we need, and there's always that argument.
Right, like a road. I mean, which is
most people think.
The last thing. I mean, even libertarians who are opposed to taxes generally would the last thing they'd go after is taxes for roads, because we really do need those things. But when you have the politicians build a road, it always gets done by not by the best road builder, not by the most efficient road builder, but by the road builder that has done the most favors for the local politicians, given the most in campaign contributions, or would be expected to give the most.
In addition, they have to pay what's called prevailing wage, which is not prevailing, but rather the highest wage in the area, which means simply from a taxpayer standpoint, you get a lot less bang for your buck. Every time government builds something, it's going to cost you 30 to 50% higher than if the real private sector built it in a competitive marketplace. And so you get a lot less bang for the buck. Even if government is going to build it, that comes back to a more fundamental question for many people is, well, what about the money we're paying now? We're paying a lot of taxes now. Isn't there a priority here? If this is important, if this is as important as they say on roads, I think most people feel are important as an example. Okay, we pay sales tax on our gas, we pay gasoline tax on our gas, we've got all kinds of other money coming in. Let's prioritize. Let's make the roads with the existing funds the number one priority, and then come to us and have us vote on whatever, maybe a sports stadium. That's what maybe the money's really about, because money's fungible. A dollar can be used here or it can be used here. And so the net result is, if we can force them to come forward with the fact that they do have the money for the important projects, let's stop conning the people by saying that's what this election's about. It's really about freeing up money for more pay, for more pensions, for other things that really don't have to do with delivery of services.
Also, what we were going back to before, kind of on the same thing, but more clearly, there was the tobacco tax in California. That was supposed to go to help in early childhood development. Now, who could argue that that's a good cause? And even if the system is horrible, and we have to pay 3-4 times more for it than we should, still, if it's the only way to provide for some poor people, then you have a hard time arguing against it. But what happened to that money?
Well, that's always been an interesting question. Money has a tendency to go, and this has happened from different pots, and gasoline tax is a good example, goes into the general fund and it gets redirected because the politicians have their list of priorities. They come to the people and say, we're going to spend it on this, and then the next thing you know, it went someplace else.
So none of that money was ever spent on early childhood development, except for some billboards.
I can't say none, but it was very little, yes.
Very little, 10% less than 5%.
But that's the way it's sold. I mean, one of the common things, of course, it's for the children, and we all love children. I don't care where you are in the political spectrum. But is this really for the children, or is this for some special interest group? And to the extent it does go for the children, does it really help? And are there alternatives? That's one of the things we like to discuss.
And can we get a better bang for our buck, because we're paying, not just, you say you're giving very conservative estimates. There are other examples where you can pay 10, 20 times more for something because you're buying it through the government. Sometimes the government will just spend, like the IRS, how much did they spend to update their computer system? Was it 80 million or something like that?
Than that. They spent all the kinds of money. State of California did the same thing.
They had to throw it out. It did no good.
They spent 100, 150, $300 million on computer systems that basically are giant doorstops. And then the whole system is they don't contract based on performance. Right. And so the people who are contracted with them aren't. One of the things you find when government gets involved in buying or delivering services is a lack of accountability. In the private sector, you design your contracts so whoever you're buying from or whoever's delivering the service is accountable and financially responsible and penalized if they don't deliver. Government has a tendency to work around that, and even if they try to put that into the contract, next thing you know, the vendor in question has gone to Senator Fogbottom and gotten a special dispensation because, gee, we didn't expect X to happen. So it always seems that somehow we get stuck with the bill.